Delta 547, wind 19016, runway 22 right, clear for takeoff.
Runway 22 right, clear for takeoff, Delta 547.
Taxi via
Air traffic controllers protect our nation's airways. These are the stories of real air traffic controllers to boldly deliver a safe, orderly, and expeditious flow of air traffic from their departure point to their final destination.
Wind 19016, runway 22 right, clear for takeoff.
Runway 22 right, clear for takeoff, Delta 547.
I just remember speaking of Rubberhead, we had that bad incident with American in Aeromexico, just north of Austin one time.
Here he comes again, man.
Yeah.
Here he comes again, but I'm going to tell you the color of his
The
eyes.
American said, anyways, trying to set everybody apart. American says, I don't know. He said, looks like you're lining up for another run at me.
Was that who that was?
Yeah.
I could not.
It was
remember.
American
I
and
remember
Mexican.
I remember
Yeah.
all.
Who else was working that night?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anybody know all the details on it?
Oh, I know.
Oh, I know all the
100%
details.
I remember.
I was
yeah.
there.
'Cause there was a big giant.
That was the worst.
They did the interviews afterwards.
That was the worst air in Houston Center.
Well, we had NTSB. I had
Yeah.
to go and testify for about half an hour over the TRACON.
When was this? What year?
That was a fact rep, so it'd be
90.
before
Long
90,
time ago.
maybe 90.
97, 98, 97?
No, it was
No, it wasn't
before
that
that
long.
because I
About
was
the 90.
I was a union rep, and because I never saw so many people
I remember I
defending
was
their
working.
positions. It's like
I was working the low
everybody was like,
altitude
"Well, where'd the weather
sector,
come? Weathermen were there, and
feeding the
was
high
there."
altitude sector, and we just ran a huge push out of the Prairie Gate. And Stan came up to me and said, "I want you to go work the high altitude." And I said, no, I don't want to do that. And he goes, yeah, you need to go up there because you know what's going on. You're going to track for Bob Lowry. And I never forget telling Stan, okay, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to be responsible for any of this stuff. Because we went up there, there was 3.5 bays plus a cart. Kevin Kelly was trying to do stuff. And I never forget hitting the line, talking to Stan came up to me and telling him, do not let that aircraft turn eastbound. He only had one airplane. He had one. And I said, do not let him turn eastbound. So he gave him a clearance, direct Stonewall, direct Galveston. And he said, well, that's not eastbound. It's kind of like a 120 heading. And they said, Stan.
Still the days when there were going to be a controller who was controller A, no matter what. You had to come down to controller A.
Actually,
The system has changed now where it's more of what happened with the system. It's not necessarily one person's. There are lots of, and that's worldwide now too. It's not just within the FAA.
Traffic management bought a huge chunk of that operational air, and I'm not going to mention the supervisor's name, but he had just gone on break about 2 minutes before I said, Landy, go over there and work. He bought a chunk of it too. So,
Well, the guy that should have bought it never did.
That's probably one of the biggest changes I've seen since I've been a controller, where it was like the controller at the tip of the spear was always going to be default.
yeah.
Right, there was a controller A. Now, worldwide, you see, there's been a transition to what happened within the system completely to make that, because normally the controller's trying to fight his way out and got into a box somehow, whether they contribute or not. There are contributing factors for the controller. Nobody's ever saying there's not. But there are systems problems that allow that to get to that point. If you have that much metal in the sky, that much commerce, that many people, that many lives are the responsibility of one person, you got a bad system, right? Because it can't be, a human in the loop is gonna make mistakes, right?
That's right.
The system has changed significantly in the last 30 years.
There's a lot of what I would say toe poppers along the way, right? A lot of possibilities that an error could happen, but everything has to line up correctly.
It's the Swiss cheese stuff, right?
Look at the departures. I forget the parallel runways that just took off recently. The one jet was on the right runway, and there was another jet on the left runway. They cleared the right jet to go off, and initially he was going to be taking off on the left runway. So what did he do? He didn't change his departure route. And when the controller stepped on course, he made the left turn, and this guy was right behind him parallel, 200 feet missed, 200 feet of separation between those two airplanes.
Do they have the snitch?
And that was a combined issue, right? The pilot never changed his departure procedure. The the procedure is fallible because of that, right? So that was human error, machine error. If it was really truly GPS that was accurate, the GPS would have decided, hey, you're on the wrong roadway to use that departure, right? That could have been factored into
Systems, yeah.
the computer, the code, but it could be a lot of people or just 3 or 4 people involved in that.
What year did this snitch come in?
That was a huge change in how we worked,
Late
wasn't it?
80s.
82 or 83, because I remember.
No,
Was it
I was
Patrick
already
early on?
checked out, so it was post 84.
It was a J ring, remember?
It was 82.
Yeah, J-ring.
Because I was in Chicago when it came in, and we
Remember,
had that spin.
You could
over
get inside the
heights.
J-ring to begin with, but you couldn't get less than 4 miles or whatever it was. And then it was, or the J-ring was 6 mile J-ring to begin
Oh,
with.
I
yeah.
remember Walt Metzger asking you one time, you had a deal, and it's like, you got 4.5 for 5 decreasing down to 4.5 coming in over Hoagie or something. So why didn't you give an immediate turn? He goes, I had 5 point something going down to 4.8. I am not going to give an emergency turn to an aircraft because I've got 0.2 of a mile. And the look was like, you know, stunned. The lander's like, I'm not doing it. Like, I'll go to 4.8. He's slowing down. It's going to get back to 5 here in a minute. But
And
like
now
immediate 90-degree turn. For
You know,
that.
And now some places they're using 3 miles.
Yeah, in Houston Center too.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
You know, it used to be, if you ran 5 miles, you washed out. When we first hired on, you run the Hoagie string. If you couldn't get 5 shrinking to 4 or 3, because approach only needed 3.
Right. It was 5 decreasing too.
If you weren't doing that, you couldn't get the airplanes in.
And Chicago was the same way. Chicago would reach out and take that handoff as far out as they could, and you knew as soon as they got it, you
That's
could bring
it.
that, you could butt up that guy's 3 miles. So coming in over the fixes.